Unlocking Website Success series. I'm particularly excited about this one because, well, we'll get into it in a minute, but because I think it's a really big sticky point for people when they're building their websites or designing their websites or working with designers. I also think that I'm just excited because Karen and I have been crossing paths or referring each other work or and things for a good long while now. And so having this conversation with her particularly is really, really exciting for me. So before I get too much further, Karen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, the part that everyone hates, isn't it? Talk about yourself. Hi, yeah, I'm Karen. I'm based in Kingston upon Thames, like just outside London, and I'm a brand photographer working with small businesses, solo entrepreneurs, and medium-sized businesses. And that's whether you're a service provider or a product-based business. So it's quite a variety. Yeah, and I've been doing that for, I'd say, about 4 years or so, because before that I was a wedding photographer. So
Mm.
it's been a photographer for quite some time, but I switched into the branding and personal branding. So just before COVID.
Ooh. And why'd you switch?
I think I've been in wedding photography, as I say, for about 10 years, and it was becoming easy, but also you book a long time in advance. You book sort of like a
Mm.
year and a half in advance, and it doesn't offer you a lot of flexibility. And even though I was sort of like still loved, obviously weddings are good fun and it's such high energy, I just started to think about, I wanted to have something with a shorter lead time, something where there's more personal connection, ongoing relationships, because when you do a wedding, it's like a few years before they have a family or if you ever see them again. So it's just like, it's like a one-off, you know. And
Mm.
also what I noticed is that I came across a lot of business owners. You know, you have florists, you have cake makers, you have magicians, DJs, the whole, you know, you can imagine the number of people that are involved in planning a wedding, and everybody needed images. And obviously what happens, a lot of wedding photographers say, yeah, you can have some, I've got some great photos of the, you know, couple with your cake, or you can just have pictures of the cake. We do all those sorts of pictures as well. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, I was thinking, they don't, because you're getting photos from different photographers and there's no real brand there, when you land on their websites, it's a real mishmash of styles. And even though the product might, you know, the flowers might be stunning, it's still, the branding wasn't great, because it's just like, well, what are you really about? Because there's so many different types of photos and different situations. And I just thought, yeah, I'd really like to help small businesses to sort of really get that together and actually create a strong brand, and have an like ongoing relationship with them. So it
Mm-hmm.
started with me reaching out to people, networking, and sort of like I actually cherry picked some people I wanted to work with, and used that then as my sort of like my brand to build on then, and yeah, and I went from there. So
I'm sure that I have two thoughts there. One is you're right. If you're a business that has lots of different photos from lots of different people, it doesn't tell that consistent story about your business. And that can feel really off to a client. And I think a lot of times people who aren't maybe in the creative industry wouldn't know why it felt off,
yeah,
but it does feel off.
yeah,
And then the,
that's what I talk to my clients about as well. When before we start planning for a shoot, and I do like a little visual evaluation
Mhm.
of their website, and it's a lot to do with, as you say, when somebody lands on your website, they don't know. It might be something jarring about it, and they don't know what it is, but it's not connecting with them, or
Mhm.
and then they'll hop off. And what you really want, the whole purpose of it is to connect with people so that they work with you. And yeah, I think that's, and it's hard to explain until you actually sit down and talk to clients, that having photos on your website and having copy on your website is not enough. It has to work for you. It has to do
Mhm.
something. And as I say, people, you know, we know ourselves when we see something we like, whether it's we go to art gallery and see a painting, we know we like it or we don't like it, but it resonates with us. And what you need to do is obviously have images that resonate with the people that you want to work with. So yeah, you're true there. It's hard to it's hard for people to put the finger on it, but they know it's off some way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's totally right. My other quick thing was I bet you another perk of doing this type of work rather than weddings is that you're maybe not working as many weekends.
I know that was the other thing. It's just like I did feel, yeah, working weekends and even sometimes with family photography, you know, people aren't work midweek and they went to work weekends, and I started to put boundaries in, and then it just got to a point where I thought, no, I want to have, I want to have like a normal working week, which is great, and I love it because it's like short lead times. You really get to know people, and you have like an ongoing relationship with them, and yeah, and I work Monday to Friday. Yeah.
Yay. So like, um, I have a lot of questions for you, but I think in the basic terms, what is website photography, right? Because we all kind of have an idea of what photography is, but when it comes to website photography specifically, what is that?
Well, I guess I'm going to sort of, if you separate it from like photos you use on social media, because obviously when I work with clients, we everybody needs website photography, and the social media side of it is like a bonus. And
Mhm.
we create enough content for that. But with website photography, it's about creating a cohesive brand. I think that's one of the key things, is it has to be cohesive, so that every page they land on your website has to communicate that your values, what you're about, and also
Mhm.
like you're building up that trust. And if they come across different images on different pages, then it's, you know, it doesn't, it doesn't work. So it's creating that cohesion. I think that's with website photography. And also technically it's like having the different sizes of photos and having, you know, a choice of photos that you might want to use as a header. But I think website photography does come under the umbrella of like brand photography, because that's what you're, you know, obviously trying to create with clients. But yeah, a lot of people don't think about website photography in terms of how the images are going to be used. They just think, oh, I need a good photo, especially if it's like
Yeah.
a brand photo themselves. But yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
more to it
that
than that.
is 98% of why I wanted to have this conversation, to be very, very honest. I have a lot of clients that come to me and they have gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous photos, but they haven't thought about how they want to use those photos. So it could be that they really like sort of layered effects, but don't have any white space in their photos. Or, you know, or like they're too zoomed in and close up for me to be able to use that photo strategically. Or maybe they have sent me loads and loads of stunning vertical photos, but really love the idea of having those parallax scrolling banners,
Yeah.
but have no 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 photos that I can use for that. Um, and they've had this brand photographer do photos for them, and but they haven't really taken that into the context of a website. Um, I think when I get photos from you, I get similar shots in different perspectives. So I get vertical or horizontal. I also get what I think is really, really special when I get photos from you is that I also get these sort of behind the scenes or like aesthetic shots that aren't necessarily always of the person, but it saves me from having to be like, okay, well, we need sort of a background photo here that isn't just your face. Um, and still trying to get it to match and fit that story and all of those things because you're I always get those photos from you.
Oh, yeah, that's really good to know. I think when I work with a client, we do take a deep dive into their brand and what they want to talk about, what their themes are as well when we're talking on social media, what they want to talk about on their websites, but also like coming having a clear idea of you know, who their ideal client is and who they want to work with. And I think to start off, we start off with that. And then we have to think of like that banner image that you talked about, that header image, which is above the fold. You have to have something which, when people sort of land on your website, they get an instant reaction to what you're about.
Mhm.
So that wide banner image is like super important. So I do tend to create like a variety of those, so, again, around the branding that we've done with each other, and also you know, different backgrounds and setups and stuff. But it's all very much part of what they want to communicate, and then they can they've got a choice. But that banner image, it's honestly, it's like the most important thing,
Mhm.
because people then decide whether they want to keep scrolling through the rest of the page or if they move on, and it should really straight away say something about you. So, I mean, I've worked with people, obviously lots of people that we've we've worked with together, and as soon as you land on that site, whether they're sort of like cool, it's got a cool urban look about them, whether they're sort of got a feminine brand, whether they're sort of a luxury brand, and it's just, you have to get that read straight away, and people will either think, oh yeah, this is what I'm after, and then want to know more, or they'll be like, I know, again, it's that attract and repel, which is fine, or they'll be like, no, this is not for me, and then they'll go elsewhere. But you want to have some kind of reaction rather than like, well, what's this person about? But this that horizontal shot, because I did documentary style wedding photography, like photojournalism, for such a long time, it was always about storytelling. So it wasn't like, it was all very much like trying to capture moments throughout the day that were meaningful and also in a creative way. So I think I was so used to taking horizontal shots and storytelling shots and having information in those pictures and where you place somebody in the frame and what that says about what's going on. So I think that actually informed my photography style quite a lot. So I actually had to make an effort to try and take portrait vertical photos, because I was so used to trying to take these sort of like landscape panoramic shots all the time. So I think that's why I've got this tendency to nail those header images. I'll have to think a bit more about the portrait stuff. But I think I do see a lot of brand photography where it is very much portraits, and it's like you're limited then, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think the other thing that really stands out that is obviously very clearly, I would say probably very clearly from your wedding experience, is that those detail shots, those sort of behind the scenes shots, those kind of pieces, because obviously when you're doing a wedding, you're taking photos of maybe the shoes and the flowers, and you're taking a picture of the rings, and you're taking a picture of all these pieces, the cake, and you're doing that as a part of that storytelling thing. You do that as well. We've had clients, so that say are like a stylist or something, and you're getting shots of her handbag in her hand, but it's a gorgeous photo to have as a background, or maybe not the most important piece here and there, but it's very clearly still her and part of her story, right?
Yes, yeah, I do try to. That's partly social media, partly for the website, but I try to include give those things details context, as you say. So it's not just like a handbag by itself, but it'll be with. I know you're talking about Joy.
Yeah.
Potential use styles. Give you a shout out, Joy. But yeah, that was very much trying to communicate how she, as a stylist, works, and also by giving her themes to talk about. So when she is writing a blog, when she is on social media, if she wants to put anything on one of her website pages, she can. That will tie in with all the photos that we have of her as well. And it's just, again, reinforcing this message that she is an experienced sort of professional stylist, and those detail images are, like, as you say, they add to the story. And I've done that with everyone I've worked with, and I see them when they send me. Well, I sort of sign up to their email list, and I see them popping up in their email lists, because they can then place writing on it. And I've seen you do it on people's website pages as well, where you can use some of the space in those shots to put a bit of text or whatever. Yeah, no, it's good. I think it's again, it's getting rid of this perception that brand photography is all about somebody looking very nice and looking at the camera, and it's very a lot of generic images out there. So I try to give like sort of quite more of a storytelling approach to it. So hopefully that helps anyway.
You're really good at pulling someone's personality through and their story. Like, I've never gotten photos from you that I'm like, I don't know what to do with these. Like, I always know,
Brilliant. That's really good.
And I think it's really cool, because I've had a few headshots done, and I love the photographer I've worked with. That said, I've made mistakes in those things. So it's probably, I will say, I'm also like a little overdue for getting another set of headshots done. But that's the thing, is the first time I saw it as headshots.
Yes.
Like, I need some headshots. I need to look professional. And it was very much, I was really nervous. But it was very much like me and my laptop, me and my laptop, me and a notebook. And I did a lot of prep. You should know, like anybody who knows me knows that I'm like a freak, right? I'm like, so I had a Pinterest board. I had gone to TK Maxx and bought a bunch of props, left the stickers on that were all in my brand, like burgundy and gold and those kinds of things. Just returned them all when I was done. Um, I had done all this prep, but it's still at the end of the day, the photos just didn't feel very, very me. One of the issues was I had glasses without glare coating.
Ah,
So
right.
I wore contacts, and I just don't wear contact lenses very often. And so there are very few photos of me in my glasses. The second time that my photographer, Jillian, I'll shout out. Jillian's amazing if you're here in Northern Ireland. She's fantastic. But Jillian Robb, the second time, obviously, I was a lot more comfortable with Jillian. We'd gone to lunch before. The second photo shoot turned out so much more like me. There's a lot of really like awkward shots of me laughing, which is very, me telling stories, and I'm like this and talking. A lot more just me pushing my Brompton and me with my bag. And there's some photos of me in my house. And I work in my house, right? The first time I was like, oh, I can't take the photos in my house. Like it just doesn't look. And the second time I was like, this is where I work, right?
Yes, yeah,
this is the real story. But I thought, let's get a lot of outdoor photos. This park I'm in every day by my house. Let's go there. Photos are gorgeous.
yeah.
But do you know what's in every single photo? A lot of green. I don't have green anywhere in my
Oh,
brand.
right. Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't think that through. Like,
Yeah, so those sorts of photos are great for when you're talking about things on social media, because then you're still connected, bringing your personality and what your interest across. But as I say, for your website, I think it's important that people don't necessarily choose their favorite photo. They need to choose the photos that best match what their brand's about. So it's because I sometimes, so when I do talk through with people about their websites and the images they've chosen, I say, like, that's a great shot of you, but your whole website is very pink and feminine, but yet you've got a picture of you sort of by a brick wall, and it's like, it doesn't fit. But I say, tell a story. I did a shoot yesterday with a interior designer, and her target market is high end. She's recently qualified a couple of years ago, and she's very much around like Bauhaus principles. So it's very pared back, less but better, form before function, all that kind of thing. So obviously, it wasn't going to work to take photos of her in a park or out in an urban street or in a loft apartment or anything like that. So what we knew we wanted to do was to have quite a lot of negative space around her, and also to have some principle where you've got the space, but you've got like an object nearby, and it's so you're also reinforcing her style of working with her photos of her. So
mm,
and I love that kind of thing when people tell me, oh, this is what I'm about, and this is these are the people I want to work with, and then I have to think of a way to say, okay, let's make then the photos of you connect with that. So it's just so that's sort of like, yeah, that's sort of example. So when you land on her website, which hopefully will be ready at the end of July, she's she's got pictures of interiors, but all the photos of herself that she's going to use throughout her website will tie in with the pictures of the interiors. So it's not, she hasn't got a picture of her with a coffee cup sitting on the sofa. It's it's very, they're quite architectural, which is obviously what she wants to get across. But yeah, so it's important to really say, not go like choose pictures you think, oh, I look really nice in that one, but really think, okay, you obviously want a picture of you looking nice, but something that is part of your brand. It works because there's a reason why it works. So now I've got photos on my website of me, and they're deliberately set in London because I want to work with people in London. I like working in urban environments. Yeah, so that's and it's the colours. It all all tones in, and also even the pictures I put my clients on my website. Even though I've got some really great photos of people I absolutely love in my portfolio, they're not going to work on my homepage.
right.
It would
Yeah.
just, yeah, it just wouldn't work. So
Yeah. I think I've had to, because of that, I've had to use Canva to cut some of my photos of me out so that I can put the photos of me that actually look the way that I want on my website. So like photos of me, yes, with my laptop, but very clearly like my laptop of me on my sofa and my glass of wine that I'm probably drinking if I'm working overtime,
yeah,
and those kinds of pieces that feel a lot more aligned for me. Um, those are in places, but if they're a photo of me that look like I want it to look in a park, then I've had to take the park part out, right?
Yes,
In
yeah,
some places of my website. I also have found that like I think if I were to do another shoot, I would probably either be booking an Airbnb, so it still feels homey, but it's a very neutral backdrop, or maybe find luckily we get a lot of gray days in Ireland, so a beach that is a sort of neutral
yeah,
backdrop as well. But yeah, I think there's so many considerations to take in when you're doing photography for a website, and I think it can be a whole can of worms, but it's if you think through it, it can be so, so, so good because that combination of telling your story through your images, which shout the loudest, really. Like you need your copy and you need your calls to action and you need the, in my opinion, the like automation or systems or structure to be really, really simple and easy to use as well.
yes, yeah,
That's like my whole thing. But but you like all those pieces are really, really important, but people are really, really visual, right?
yes, yeah, yeah. Which is why Instagram works so well, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's. I mean, it's that's the first connection we make with anything. Is obviously visual. When we just think about how we shop ourselves, if we're looking online, if we're walking down the high street, it's something that catches our eye first. And also people faces is another thing that's the first thing people connect with. But I've worked with say a lot of coaches and service-based business. I just want to mention a beautiful website you made for Georgie of Chasing Lobsters, and I
Mm.
send a lot of my clients to this. So this is how website should look. Um, and with Georgie, I mean, so and again, because I've worked with a lot of coaches, and every coach has their own character and way of working, and their USP. So this is why you can't have generic photography. It has to be a story that's about working with that person. And one of the themes that Georgie talked about is that her way she works is she invites people into a space. She creates space for people. So when we were doing the photography for that, we had to make sure it felt light, it felt spacious. There was space next to her. She wasn't stuck behind things. So it's all, again, and you might think, oh, that sounds like it's overthinking. But again, it's all this subliminal messaging that when people land on her website, they feel that. They feel that sense of space. They get that from the images. And it probably sounds like I've been all arty farty and stuff, but
No, no, I think the thing is what you're doing is saying it without saying it, right? You're showing
yes,
people who she is, you're showing people how she works, you're showing people what most importantly, you're showing people what working with her will feel like,
yes, that's
which
the key.
is the key,
Yeah,
right? And I think that that's very, very we did do a really good job, the two of us together, doing that with Georgie's site. Um, and I get all the time, I can't even tell you how many times I get a potential new client call and they say, I'm here because I love Georgie's site. And I don't know how many of those you've passed on or not, like, but like
you're
it happens a lot. Or
yeah,
Georgie's their coach,
yeah,
and they say, Georgie's my coach. I love her website. Can you please do my website?
yeah,
Like
yeah. I
it
get people
happens.
commenting how fabulous it is. Yeah,
Like, and I think the thing that I think a lot of people get a little weird about is a couple things. I do find a lot of times people um, get weird about having too many photos of themselves on their website, and I don't really think there's such a thing because your face everywhere is showing the different aspects and sides of you, and it's building trust with
yes,
that person. The only thing that's going to build that trust better is video, which I know you do some of those as well for the homepage kind of banner. We've done some websites where there's a beautiful moving sort of video for
hmm
people, and that's it's always really, really good too because I think the more that people think they actually know you, well, and hopefully actually really do know you based on that, the more they trust you, right? And I think the other thing people get really awkward about, which I can understand, because I would have said I probably would have been awkward about it too, but
yeah,
I've started to have to practice what I preach. a little bit, and that is putting photos of you that you don't necessarily feel pretty in. I love to put a photo. I have another client, and I think she actually vetoed the photo, but she had a photo of her kind of going like kind of a thing, and it just had so much personality in it, and so much warmth and energy radiating out of it. And I think in the place I put, now it wouldn't work just anywhere, but I think
Yes.
where I'd place it in a really strategic place, and she was like, no, okay. Like, but I think sometimes those photos that you don't like, I have a photo of me that I use a lot where I don't think I liked it at first, but it's me playing with my hair and I'm looking kind of at the ground and my face is kind of messed up, right? Like it's not like a normal smiley, but it shows it like the more I looked at it, the more I was like, this is a really natural and warm photo of me. And so I use it in a lot of places like my newsletter and places like that, that I think showing off that sort of warm, maybe not as polished place version of yourself, it works really, really well.
Yes, yeah. There's a couple of things there. So when you talk about like your warmth and your personality and stuff like this, I think this is why it's important for people to actually sit down and think, okay, what sort of character, to look at themselves and even ask their friends and ask around, how do I come across? Because some people are like more introverted and quiet, they want calm, they want calm photos themselves. But if you want to have something that looks more informal and relaxed and has warmth and an energy, then your photos should reflect that, even if you just say they're not like perfect. And I don't want like perfect photos anyway. Your personality should come through. But yeah, so there's slightly off the cuff looking images. But this thing about it really is hard when you first start having your photos taken, and also when you start sharing photos of yourself. If it does feel weird, I know that because I felt the same way. And then I think the more you do it, the more you get used to it. But also, it is so, so important, as you say, the more people see you on every page of your website, it's the connection. They feel like they are getting to know you, because they don't just go to the homepage. They will explore and they'll come back to it and they'll read bits and they'll have a look. And every time they're doing that, they're feeling more familiar with you. And they can only do that if they see your face. It was my son's birthday a couple of years ago. He had a big birthday. I wanted to get him a special cake, and I went on Instagram. I found this cake maker. Oh, the most stunning cakes, and they weren't cheap. Yes, I had to get it delivered to where he was living. He was a student at uni at the time, and I was trying to find out about her, and I just thought, before I hand over quite a big sum of money for this cake, I didn't get a sense of who she was. There were no gorgeous pictures on her website, gorgeous pictures on Instagram. I think somewhere I found her name, but there was just no pictures of her. So I didn't know who I was paying, who I was trusting that would deliver this cake for my son on his birthday. And I just thought, and obviously she had a professional photographer do her other photos. And I was like, no, I can't email her and say you need to get pictures up of yourself. But it unnerved me not to meet her,
Yeah. And
you
I
know?
think that's another really common thing is that if it's a service-based business, people are kind of like, well, I am selling me. I've got to put my face up. But if you're a product-based business, it's just important,
It is.
right? You probably aren't going to have the same number of photos of yourself up as a service, but you need to have some, at least one on the homepage and at least one on the about page, like a minimum, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Probably on the contact page as well, I would hope. But because again, people want to know who they're talking to, who they're buying from.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and that about page should be that business story, and you should have your name and your face. And if you have a team, have team photos, team bios.
Yeah.
Again, it does all of that building connection thing. I also think, from my perspective, and this is like a total side tangent really quick, it's just that like I'm really passionate about people who would typically be classed as like solo entrepreneurs, myself included,
Yeah.
not saying that we're solo entrepreneurs because like I have two assistants. No, they're not full time, they're not staff. But they're up on my website because I have this two-pronged thing of like, if somebody gets an email from Heidi, I don't want them to not know that it's really from me, like it's from my team. And the other thing is that I want people to, I just don't believe in this myth that we should all do it all ourselves, right? And that's something that I think in my work, I've seen a lot of people feel like they should be spinning all the plates themselves. Um, and it gets me annoyed.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think it's this. One of the things I learned at the beginning. It's when, especially if you're starting out your business fresh or you're just like relaunching, is to get the help, even if it's like just things around the house kind of help. Anything that frees up your time to make you more of an expert at what you do is going to help drive your business forward. Even it's hard when you think, oh, I don't really want to spend money on this because it means there's less money in my business, but it's counterintuitive. You have to spend money to grow. And when I started my wedding photography business, I did invest in like a 4-day wedding photography course, which was brilliant. But later on, I needed to invest in like a whole branding thing myself, and I didn't, and I think it slowed me down. But obviously, I know better now. But yeah, it is. It's counterintuitive. It's to spend money when you're trying to make money, but it does. It's the freeing up of time, the freeing up of headspace to make you better at what you do.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've talked
definitely.
about this a few times on this series alone, but I talk about it everywhere. It's this triangle of time, money, and energy that you have to be really intentional where you're spending it. And I've been in a group program for the last 6-8 months called Plenty, and it's all about making money and how to kind of get unstuck in some of these things. And it's with a coach who's really, really intersectional and just absolutely lovely, and doesn't be like, you just need to make more money by making more money, right? She
Yeah.
understands that that's not how this world works, and she's fantastic. But one of the things she talks about quite a lot is clearing the path. And I think that's one of those, sometimes we hold on to money so tightly because we might need it, right? And
Yes.
sometimes we do. But I think if you can spend it when it's necessary or even sometimes fun, you're inviting that money back in. For example, like I've just spent a bunch of money on branding things. I just bought a stamp for the boxes that I send my clients. So like I actually have a couple here that I was doing one of these parcels for a client,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
and that I send them that say open when I launch your website, and it's a bottle of prosecco.
Oh,
Right, I
right.
can't get this in the
Fantastic.
camera. There we go.
Yeah.
Open on website launch day, and I was doing this for a client, and I was like, this just doesn't look as nice as I want it to. Like inside's really nice. It's got a branded bottle opener for my business, and it's got these gorgeous branded cards that say it's congratulations on your new website, and the other side says it's time to pop the bubbles. Like, and those are all branded, and the outside of the box felt crap. And so I bought myself a stamp
Yeah.
to, I realized I was nearly out of all these things. So I bought new business cards, new boxes and fillers, and those are fun. It's not a huge sum of money, but it's money that sometimes you go, do I really need to spend money on this? But that little bit of extra brand experience for a client can make a big difference.
Oh, yeah,
You
definitely.
know, I felt the reason I started doing this is I felt when I finished someone's website, I was like, all right, enjoy, go off and celebrate this weekend. And that felt really weird. But now I've given them a small piece of celebration, and it doesn't
Yeah.
cost me very much. Like, I think each one of these boxes, postage included, is a tenner, like with everything inside, postage. But it's just enough for a client to know I'm really thinking of them.
Yes, I think that's really important because then you're keeping up that connection, and obviously you've already done a really good job and you've delivered what you said you delivered. But it's just that, yeah, it's just the thoughtfulness of it. And to be honest, I love all that branding stuff. I've done it for years. I do it now with my clients, and it's all, I've got the little thank you cards and the matching wrapping paper and the ribbon and the gifts and all that kind of thing. And when I had delivered weddings, I always sent. It's like a box with, like, then it was like a USB and stuff,
Mhm.
but and like and really pretty prints. So I would get some hand printed photographs from the wedding and other little bits and pieces that I knew they liked. So because obviously you get to know them through the wedding day and stuff like this as well.
Mhm.
So, and it's just that whole sort of thing. I know, saying I really enjoyed working with you. Yeah,
And I
it's
think
a
the thing
nice
is,
feeling.
and obviously we're talking mostly about photography here and websites, but this is a continuation of your brand.
Yes.
You're, I think the thing is if working with you is lovely, people like, okay, if you do a good job, people will respect that. If working with you is absolutely lovely, and that means in my book that working with you is really easy,
Yeah.
um, and you take those little extra steps, people are going to refer you, right? If they feel like, because they're gonna remember it. If you've created a memorable, easy experience at that point. You didn't just do a good job. you've
Yeah.
done more. And I think that that is like, and I swear we're bringing this back to photography, but like, I think that people often kind of forget. Like, I've had people say things like, "Oh, I saw burgundy and thought of you today." Right?
Oh,
Literally, I
yeah. Oh, wow.
saw, and because I wear it all the time, and that's an intentional choice. I also love it. It works both ways. but, but like my husband and I was in the charity shop the other day looking at another burgundy dress. He's like, "Do you need more?" And I was like, "Yes." Like, I will never have too much. Like,
Yeah.
but
It's
it's
handy you
this.
like red wine as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. Actually, funny, I drink probably more white wine than red wine, but that's not necessarily that I like one more than the other. It's just that white wine doesn't give me heartburn.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I think it's these things where if you can create this piece of a brand where you're packaging inside your gift box, or the emails your clients get when they work with you, or it all connects back to exactly what they're seeing on their website. You want, from the time that they see your website or social media, from the first time that they interact with you, that brand experience, consistency, feel, tone of voice, everything is the same the whole way through.
Yeah, yeah, as you say, it's like every single touch point should be saying things about your brand, and it should be. Yeah. Let's go back to the photos. It's creating that cohesion, um, right through from when they first contact you, right through to when you deliver. And again, when they see your stuff on social media, and again, the social media, it doesn't have to be perfect. I know my clients, what really it makes me feel chuffed is when they use the photos a lot on social media, and it makes it easy for them to show up and to just whatever they're talking about, they know they've got images that match what they're saying, so it makes
Mm,
life a lot easier, but it also just keeps reinforcing sort of like whose page they've landed on, whose website they're visiting, where they are, and what that person's about. Is just over and over again. It reinforces the message and the vision and the values and everything else that they've worked so hard to try and get across to that
mhm.
brand. But yeah, and I say the photography plays a big part in that, obviously. And
Absolutely. And like I've had, and I think this is an experience that most business owners have had, but when you are doing that type of thing, there are people that are watching.
yeah,
Like I have a client who booked after following me on I didn't even know it. She was over in America, but she was following me on everything. She was following my newsletter, my podcast. She was looking at my socials, and obviously my website. And when it came time, she's like, "This is it." Like, so she waited. She waited till it was the right time, and she knew, because she was actually like running her business on the side of uni. She graduated uni, um, spun up her business full time, and was like, all right, I'm hiring her. Like, that was it. um, and so all those pieces matter.
yes,
Um, yeah, I
yeah.
think it's, and I
That's
think
it.
you made another really interesting point there that I meant to make earlier is, um, obviously we were talking about how vulnerable it can feel sometimes to put your pictures out there, to put your face out there. But I think when you get professional photography done, it makes it a lot easier, because you suddenly have photos done in an outfit you've picked out that you love, at angles that really work for you, in great lighting. You may have taken the time to, like, you've probably maybe had your hair done or makeup done, or at least you feel you've taken the extra care with them that day. You have photos that really feel good. So when you get asked to, or so for what your website, right? So when you're doing your blog or your website or whatever, um, it's so much easier. You're creating a new sales page. You've got all the imagery you need, for that new offer that you're putting out there into the world. But you also have things for if you, like, I just got asked to do a workshop with women in business here. And one of the things they needed from me was a headshot,
Yeah.
right? You need a photo, you need a good photo. Or I just submitted myself for Small Business 100. I had to submit a photo and a headshot. And also, I very intentionally always submit the same headshot for those types of things.
Yeah, consistency. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I also use that same headshot for things like, my email signature, the little circle that goes in my emails when people see me. All those kind of like account head like pictures that you
I know.
need.
Yeah.
So I think that that's one of those, another piece of the consistency, but it does feel easier to show up. If I had gotten that email that said, "Do you want to do this workshop?" and it said, "Provide a bio and a headshot," I would have had to be like, "Do I have a good one that's gonna suit this?"
Yeah, and it would have been stressful because you're then thinking about, well, I've got to try and create something, and which one, and you're fiddling about. But I think when you have a planned like brand photo shoot, I mean, the feedback I get is from people is how good they feel
Mm.
about themselves afterwards, because obviously this is a leap of faith, because people do feel self-conscious. But I say I'm used to working. I work in a very relaxed way, and it's not static, it's not posed at all and stuff like this. So you feel like you're being yourself. And one of the biggest compliments I got from somebody is that I gave them back a piece of themselves, and I was just like, oh yeah, that was like, that's one of the that's such a big compliment, because they felt so good afterwards. But I do think, yes, it's easier to show up when you've got like a collection of photos or whatever that you can dip into, whichever one you choose is going to be on brand for you, so you don't have to worry, is this going to work? And also, as you say, when you're sending pictures out, and I do the same thing myself, I have a photo that I use almost everywhere, so then I'm recognizable. So rather than saying, like, thinking like, is that Karen? Oh, I don't know. She has, looks a bit different than that. Is that, they know straight away it's me, because they see it everywhere.
Yep.
So that consistency is important as well. And obviously the variety comes in, all the different pages and socials and stuff. But just to have some of those headline type of headline photo everywhere, it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But the other thing, can I just say another thing about clients and websites? And obviously people you can have photos at different times of years. One of the key things, if people are thinking about what to put on their website, is to go for and I heard I think your blogging guest talking about creating evergreen content. And that's the same for like photography as well. So when again, depends what your brand is, but you want to have photos on your website that don't look like, oh, she took that at Christmas time, or like, it's a hot sunny day on the beach. And then the other photo is very different. So you can create evergreen photos where they're neutral, but they reflect your brand, but they're quite neutral. And in that way, it doesn't matter when people land on your website, what time of year. It works. It looks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I actually had, so my most recent brand photo shoot, which is still a bit old, mostly still works for me for two reasons. One, I still wear similar glasses, even though I've got new ones. And two, I normally have my hair at this length. I've actually in the past cut my hair semi-intentionally to keep it at a length that is in the same as all my photos.
So you could never change your hairstyle.
Like right above my shoulders and kind of here, I know that it still looks similar-ish.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that I've never grown out my hair. Like I had it quite long in the pandemic, but I don't think as many people were seeing me in person anyway. So, but that's just a fun little thing. Like if I ever decided I was going to drastically change my hair, I know I would probably also need to get new headshots. And I think there are people with brands that maybe they change their hair color a lot. There's some women that do. And that's one thing. I know some people that's part of their brand, and that's okay. Like they have, maybe they have photos where they've got like bright purple hair and then they're blonde in another and whatever, but they've been quite intentional with showing that they do change their hair color a lot.
Yes,
so if somebody hops on a call with them, if they have, or they're suddenly a ginger, nobody bats an eye, right? But I think it's more common for somebody to say be blonde in all their photos and then suddenly decide to dye their hair dark because it's autumn and they felt like it, and then people show up and they don't look like themselves.
Yeah, so I've come across that myself, and I've seen somebody's little headshot on Insta or something, and then we've had a Zoom chat, and it's like it doesn't look anything like them, and it's just like, oh, and I think that's the other thing. Even if you have your photography done, do it yourself, or you have to pay for someone to have it done, then it's got to feel and look like you where you are now.
Mhm.
So it's no good using an old photo when you say when you were like blonde and now you've got long dark hair, and people when they see you, there's like oh, is this the same person? But yeah, because obviously a lot of stuff happens on Zoom and people look so different. So you still want to look and feel like yourselves, and and have authentic photos. So it's yeah, that's the important part of it as well. So that you're being
And I've
yourself.
even had that issue where I had a photo on LinkedIn from my first photo shoot. I've since switched it, and it was one of my photos without glasses, and people said that they didn't recognize me when I went to like add them, or what is it, request
Yeah,
connection,
yes,
whatever they
yeah,
call
yeah.
it.
Who's this weirdo following me?
Yeah, they were like, "Who is this person?" Because I didn't look like me without glasses,
Yeah.
because I wear them like 99% of the time, right? If I'm going on the odd night out, I'll put contacts in and that's it. So, okay, so I guess my last question is, obviously not every business is at a place where they're ready to work with a professional brand photographer.
Yeah.
What considerations would you maybe, or tips would you give if somebody is at a place where they're just trying to see if this idea is going to work before investing in a lot of time, in money in professional services? Should they keep in mind while DIYing their brand or website photos?
Right. So my screen just went off there. That's pretty bad. So you again, it's similar sort of principles. So if you're going to sort of DIY your photography and you want to set up, you're going to get a template for your website. Then I would start with thinking about that landing page banner image. So obviously it has to be horizontal. Think about creating space around yourself. So if you need to put writing in, if you want to if you need to crop it to size, because not all banner images, headers are the same size as photos, and also phone photos, particularly if you use those, resolution's lower, the dimensions are slightly different. And sometimes you get some product websites and the head images, they're quite narrow.
Mhm.
So I've worked with people before and I've had to do Photoshop work for them to try and make things fit. So yeah, so I would say, yeah, creating space around yourself. Don't put yourself in the middle, or have at least try and create images where you're to the right, you're to the left, space above your head as well, and don't have things going through your head. Think about what you're trying to. The most important thing is think about what you're trying to say. So if you have a quiet, calm brand, then your background and your lighting needs to be like that. If
And
you
probably
are,
your outfits.
yeah, and same with your clothing as well, and also bringing, as a simple tip, is just bringing some of the colours of your brand into your clothing or the
Mm.
background. Then if you're like a bold brand, like let's take like say Holly Tucker, yeah, Holly and Co. She's a British, she champions British businesses here. She set up
Mhm.
Not in the High Street years ago. I'm sure you know who she is. Everything about her is vibrant energy, color. Then if that's your brand, then obviously that's the sort of background you want, if whether it's going to be from a sort of like a colorful wall or flowers or whatever, and yourself as well. If you want to come across as like high energy, then your photo should. So you might want more fun photos. You're not going to have like a quiet picture of yourself. Thoughtful picture. So you can have something that's got a lot more energy. So to start off with, you need to think about those aspects. And also, when I work with my clients, we come up with like a client avatar, and I always like have our muse. So if you think about who you're talking to, somebody you'd love to work with, and have that person in mind whenever you create photos or share photos on your website. And then so like the horizontal, the vertical ones for some of the about me pages, and some detail shots. So get the self timer set up, have pictures of you working, whatever it is you do, and it doesn't have to be the laptop. It can be, if you're a florist, you're doing something. If you're a cake maker, if you're a coach, it might be something. Doing podcasts of you doing Zoom calls, and those are sort of things you can use on your about me page. And even
Mhm.
on like your contact page, have a photo of yourself on the contact page, looking approachable and easy to talk to. That could be a sort of like a something that's more lighthearted or informal, but it's just having something all the way through. And your sales page, if people have gone through your homepage and they got to your sales page, and then they're really, you want people to sort of really sort of think about working with you, then obviously I think you need to have the images there are quite important as well. So again, if you're a service-based business, it's important that they feel, again, approachable type of photos. And again, depending on the format, you might still have a header. On my page, I still got a header image, and another page I've got like a block of color with a portrait image in. So
Mm.
it depends on what your setup is. But again, it's that every page, pictures of yourself, and making yourself relatable. But thinking about the background, the lighting. You don't want moody lighting if you're trying to get people. You've got a light, easygoing brand. So it's the same with product photography. So it's all those kinds of things. But there's so much you can read online now. There's some brilliant books on branding. Fiona Humbertson is a brilliant person to go to for that. But yeah, read up about branding and the sort of images to use as well, and come up with words. So you have to, what I do is when I go through branding with people, we come up with words and we see if there's pictures that we've taken and that they're going to use match the words. So again, like we mentioned earlier, if you've got warmth, energy, sort of if something is exciting, if you're an exciting brand, and all the colors and things like that go with that. And then some people might have like luxury, calm, easeful. So it's those sorts of words will always be in the back of your mind with everything you put on your website.
Mhm.
So is that sort of like the sort of thing you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all really, really helpful information for somebody who's just getting started.
Yes.
I think there's obviously the technicals that can be Googled as well, like how to get good light, like all those kinds of things that are obviously important too.
Yeah.
Um,
Not
and
sunlight,
then,
please.
yeah, I
Not
know,
no
but
sunlight.
it can be quite a challenge. Like I've been doing my business, and I'd say overall, I'm pretty good at being really consistent with my brand. However, and I've chosen burgundy because I love it. I wear it every day. However, again, in my plenty calls, I was unpacking a thing that has been affecting my business and my money. And it's this idea that I sort of have conformed moving cultures. And I've made myself quieter and
Oh, right.
smaller by moving cultures. And so one of the things that I've my entire life defined myself by is I'm just a loud person. I'm loud. Except for I realize that very few people know that about me, because my brand doesn't really convey it. Um, because and that's something I'm learning to adjust and unpack and such. But I think for a long time I made my brand a little too somber, and so that's why you'll see I updated my website at the start of the year, and it's got more script fonts because to help balance my sort of dark somber colors that I love. And I do tend to wear dark somber colors, and I think it's because my hair is so bright. But, and also because I'm pasty and bright colors can do funny things to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's it what we're saying is there's no perfection in any of this.
Yeah.
I've designed websites. I've had a couple fantastic brand photo shoots done. I've made mistakes in both of them. I've learned from both of them. I have made mistakes in my brand as well, and my storytelling. Not only all of that, even taking the word mistakes out of it, these things have evolved for me over time as well. My personality, the services I offer, what I want my business to be achieving for me, who I want to work with, these things have evolved as well. So I guess I'm trying to say all this to like take the pressure off of getting things perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we need to bear in mind is we're making this business work for ourselves. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's the thing we have to think about all the time. It's just we don't let the business control us. We are creating this so we can have the kind of life we want. And it's this, yeah, take the pressure off, and as you say, things happen, evolve, and let things happen naturally and gradually. And you do change things. People change their brands sometimes. They sometimes to go off at an angle with their businesses, and that's just all part of what you learn especially when you're setting up.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I think that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it motivates you, doesn't it? Because you think,
Yeah.
well, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm going to try this out. And
Yeah, and there's no getting stuck. Like even big, big, big brands pivot. They
oh yeah, yeah,
redesign their logos, they change their names. Like there's no pressure that way.
yeah.
Well, thank you.
Sorry,
Oh,
but
no,
I was just going to say, because I love all the branding stuff. I had to try and stop myself from changing my branding because I like to tinker around with this. Like, no,
I think about every other week, I just find another script font that I'm like, that one would go really well. And then I'm like, no, I'm sticking with mine. Sticking with mine. But I
Yes.
think the other thing is that I love to be unique a little bit. And so I find that the more popular my script font has become, the more I want to change it. And
Yes,
it's so
yeah.
popular that my laundry basket, our laundry basket broke a couple weeks ago, and we had to buy a new laundry basket. And we wanted a really sturdy one. So I got a metal one, and it has like a liner, and the liner on it says laundry. And that's in my font. I was like, that's
Oh.
my brand font. Right? Like, that's my
Yeah.
script font. That's my accent font. Um, but yeah, it happens. And someday maybe I will change it, but for now I've bred a lot of consistency with it, and I think I'm not ready.
Yes, yeah, I know. Oh, brilliant.
Well,
Well,
thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom about photography and storytelling and the strategy and kind of the um, technicality behind some of these things as well. Can you tell everyone where they can find you?
oh, right, yeah. So it's Karen Flower Photography is my website, and it's Karen Flower Photography on Insta. And I think it's the same one in LinkedIn as well. I don't really hang out on Twitter. I've just joined Threads, sorry. But yeah, I'm just, but Twitter was good at the beginning. If you're starting out a business, Twitter and Threads are quite good because it takes the pressure off you. You can just have conversations, and that helped me a lot when I first started my business.
Mhm.
Obviously, Instagram takes a lot more thought and work some days, but yeah. So Carol Flower Photography everywhere. If you put that to Google, that's what will come up.
She does come up. I don't know what I put it in there for just a few minutes ago. I put it in, I think I was trying to copy your URL for something.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I was like, there she is. You're very easy to find, which is
That's
good
good
news.
to know. Good to know. Oh, it's a good talking to you.
Oh, yes, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, and do watch the rest of your series because there's some brilliant articles on there as well in chat. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, bye everyone. We'll talk soon. See you next
Thanks.
time.
Bye. Bye.